23rd Village Board meeting. Trustee Kane will be presenting the flags.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this time we'll open up the public comment portion of the meeting. So if anyone would like to speak, I'd ask that you keep your comments to 5 minutes. Give us your name and address, please. Mr. Elder, how are you this evening?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Peter Elder, 59 Dunning Avenue. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I would like to ask the board to enforce a uniform rule about the call-in period at the end of the village board meetings. Currently, the rule reads, visitors should address the board during the public portion of the board meeting. Persons addressing the board must give their name and address. The call-in falls under the second portion of the meeting titled public comment. Over the last many months, some individuals have called in and followed the rules and given their name and address. However, one or two have given neither. They call in and the mayor lets them broadcast snide comments about audience members. These same people seem to call over and over again, so I guess their phone number or ID show up on the caller ID on the phone. And while I would not advocate blocking them or censoring their comments, I would ask the mayor to enforce the rules, interrupt them, ask them their name and address, and if they decline, prevent them from continuing until they follow the rules. Or, there's another option. If the board is so inclined, do not require anyone to give their name and address. That would be more in line with the opinions of the Committee on Open Government. Here, for example, is opinion 3518, authored by Mr. Freeman, Executive Director of the Committee on Open Government.
Does that address, this opinion address specifically Collins portions of the meeting?
It addresses any public portion of the meeting, but if you want to isolate the call-in period, I don't know, because I don't know how many actual boards do that. And there's one for Don, too, although he would probably be able to look it up in 2 seconds. Although I'm paraphrasing, what Mr. Freeman is saying here is that once a board allows the public to speak, they must allow anyone and any address from any address to do so. Therefore, it's not relevant what that person's name or address is. Public comment time is exactly that, public and open. And the board, once having granted the time, must allow everyone from anywhere equal access to make comments and ask questions. Now, please understand, I am not advocating you change the current rule. What I am asking you to do is to equally apply the rule to everyone. If you find it impossible to enforce the name and address rule during the call-in, please just abolish that rule so everyone is treated the same. Thank you.
I will give my name, Richard Walter, 20 Elm Street. I have a question. It's been almost 2 years since we switched to Monroe County Water, or the contract was signed. My question is, at that time, we were going to put up a cell tower so we could continue to receive the revenue from the cell phones that are currently, towers are currently located on the water towers. The agreement was to be for 3 years, it was my understanding, with the water authority. I have heard nothing in the last 2 years other than we're looking into it. How long does it take to look into it, and what is the current status of that tower?
I'll give you what we've done to date as far as looking into this. We've met with a company in Ontario that actually erects towers to get a ballpark figure. We've also, I actually have a call in to Dick Metzger about some cell antennas that are on there right now, so I should know more in the next couple of days. And I'm also going to talk to him about their plans for that smaller tank, because as the contract states, if they are no longer going to use it, they will take that tank down at their cost, at no cost to us. We've also looked into, there's a couple of national companies out there that actually will put a tower up at no cost to the village. The problem with that is the amount.
They want the revenue, or a portion thereof.
A significant portion of it. So that was pretty much put to bed almost immediately after we found out. I think, what was the percentage that they wanted to keep, do you remember? It's like,
They started at 60%, and then we got them down to, I think,
Well,
50.
the question here, has FCC approval been granted for a tower?
no, we're not down that road yet.
Has the FAA been contacted?
No.
Well, it seems to me before you do too much research, you should find out if you can put one up rather than what the cost of it is. No sense doing research into the cost if you don't know if you can even do it or not. If the village does not put up the tower and the cells go away, who is liable to the cell company for the cost of taking it down and moving it to someplace else if the water authority decides they want to take the tower down and the village decides it's too costly to put up a tower? Who is liable for the breach of contract with the current carriers on there, or is the contract written so that the village has an out with those carriers?
I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to answer that question.
Well, this question should be considered too before much longer, because it's down to just about a year left to do anything. And this is the first report we've had in 2 years that the village is doing anything. I think the open party should be more open with what they're doing. Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Eric Reynolds, 64 Kircher Park. I've had the opportunity recently to meet with a citizens group that is concerned with what's going on with the well field. I've had some questions that they've asked me to relay to you. They're trying to wrap their head around what the value of the well fields are. Has there been any documentation as to the well field?
It's right in the industrial appraisal report.
The what?
The industrial appraisal report,
Okay.
we talked about that, I believe, a year ago.
Okay, so
2 years ago?
that is,
It's available if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay, so,
It's 1.2 million, I believe,
okay,
the well fields.
and that's,
I think that's
and
what-
that's based on
That's
the,
based on their appraisal that they did.
okay, and that's, so I do have that, and the appraisal,
So you had the information you just asked me for, or no?
I do have it. Right here. If you need it,
No,
I
I've got it, I already know it.
I have
got
copies.
the
Do
booklet right in
anyone
my
else
house.
want a copy? Okay. So there's a little bit more to the appraisal. The appraisal is $1.225 million, given the fact that the land is vacant and there are no improvements on it. That's the scenario B, that no demolition costs are factored into that. The actual value of the property as it sits was appraised at $3.3 million with the improvements on it and being used as a well field. So in general, that tells us that by doing away with the water and the wells, you've cost us essentially $2.2 million as a village. So when do you remember telling us that the switch to Monroe County Water wouldn't cost us anything?
Well, actually, you're incorrect in what you're stating right now.
Well,
So
no.
let me
Okay,
explain
go
things
ahead.
for you. Because you can read industrial appraisals, what they did as far as assessing the value of that property.
Right.
And they assessed the value of that property with the, not having the open space overlay over that property.
Correct.
Okay? Because that open space overlay is over there now, the value of that is significantly less.
Right.
So that's the key thing that really hurt the value of that property, was one in 2003, subsequent to the the legal battles that went on, they put the open space overlay district on there. That is what really negatively impacted the value of that property more than anything else.
No, that's not, that's
Well,
incorrect.
It is true.
But that-
Because if you take away the ability of a vacant piece of property to be developed, you most certainly decrease the value of that property significantly.
Right, but
would-
the
you would agree with that?
appraisal has nothing to do with that.
Well, it most certainly does.
No.
Because the appraisal was based upon being developable property, okay? It wasn't appraised based upon not being able to be developed because the open space overlay district is on there.
So-
It states that right in the report.
Let me understand what you're saying.
Sure.
You're saying that when the property went from a well field to possibly a developable, a residential development, the fact that the overlay district was on there made it worth less than the appraisal value.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you read the report, it clearly states that they did the appraisal based upon that property being able to be developed.
Right.
Okay? They did not appraise that property based upon the overlay district, which severely restricts anything that can be done on that property.
Right.
Subsequently, when the overlay district was put on that property, it significantly reduced the
I
value of
think
that
you
property.
need a copy of this because...
I've got a copy right in my office,
Well, I'll
Mr.
give you a
Reynolds.
copy right now. Because what you're saying is not correct.
It absolutely is correct.
I'm sorry, I have it right
have
here,
the
I've read it
report.
right through.
Why don't we just remember the process here? He speaks for 5 minutes. It's not a back and forth
Okay.
conversation for 15.
So the valuation of, valuation B, which is the valuation of the property as if it was vacant land with no improvements on it, is valued at $1.25 million. The valuation of the property in its then current use as a well field was $3.3 million. What you're saying is that it's worth less than $1.25 million, right?
Yeah.
Now,
No.
no,
Since
excuse me.
2003.
In 2003, okay.
Since 2003.
Okay. No, since November, I'm sorry, this came out November 4th,
I know what it is.
2013.
All right.
That's when they valued this property. I mean, you're twisting it around, and
No,
it's not twistable. It's right here in
I'll tell you
black
what,
and white.
Let me
So
just say
here's
this.
the,
At the
let me
next board
finish
meeting,
what I'm
I'll bring that
saying, please.
information out to you, okay?
I have the information.
No, you don't have all of it.
Here's the issue. Here's the issue. When they evaluated this in September and gave this report to you in November, the value of that well field was $3.3 million as it sat. It says it right in here. The value of the well field, hypothetically, if it could be developed, was $1.25 million. You're saying that it's worth less because of the overlay district. That has no bearing on what it was worth as a well field. None. It was a well field then, it was under the overlay district. So what you're actually telling us is that by switching the water away without doing any research into how to close the well fields and recoup that money, is that you lost closer to $3.3 million for the village, because that property is essentially worth zero right now as it sits.
Okay. Thank you,
And
Mr.
that
Reynolds.
and you promised us that we would not lose any money. It would not cost us anything to switch to Monroe County Water.
Have a good night. Appreciate it.
And so
Time's up, Mr.
essentially, I would say that that is a bald-faced lie.
Have a nice day. Anyone else this evening? All right, I'll close the public portion. We'll move right into village board business. And first up, we have a resolution to approve the minutes from the village workshop, July 7th, 2015. Questions? No. All right, I'll entertain a motion in a second to approve.
The workshop?
Yeah.
Can I interrupt you?
Sure.
Please? I'd like to read them, since a number of
that's
people
great.
were not
Thank you for that.
at the meeting. The meeting began at 7 o'clock, and all were present. Engineers from Labella Associates gave a presentation on the results of a study that was conducted at the village wastewater treatment plant. The study concentrated on the 2 digester tanks in the hope of recommending improvements or to find and correct any deficiencies. The heating equipment on the digester was also inspected, and finally an energy conservation plan was reviewed. Wendy Mahar, engineer, reviewed with the board many options available for the 2 digesters. She said because tanks were not drained, a full evaluation of the inside could not be done. Although the tanks are older, she did suggest that they are better candidates for repair rather than being replaced. Mrs. Mahar reviewed the repair process, said it would take approximately 3 to 4 weeks per tank, proposed the tanks be drained one at a time, the interior power washed, sandblasted to clean them of residue. At this point, the interior could then be fully evaluated and assessed. She said they could repair the cracks with an epoxy injection, then possibly line the tanks with a carbon fiber or mesh lining. She said the repair would be for 2 reasons: 1, to bring back structural integrity of the tanks, and 2, to seal them up. Mayor Cahill asked, in her opinion, what would the life expectancy of the tanks be if repair were made. She said maintaining and improving the tanks with the products that are available today could possibly enable the tanks to be used for another 20 to 25 years, but she could not be sure. A copy of the actual study is available to all for review. It's in the village clerk's office. Then we moved on. Matt Chatfield, director of the Webster Economic Development Alliance, discussed with the board the next step in a grant process as a result of the engineering report on wastewater treatment. He said that there are a couple of grants the village could apply for with the results of the Labella report. He said we have to be mindful of deadlines, and spoke of the intended use plan and the consolidated funding application, both of which the village could apply, but more research will be needed. Then Jake Swingley, Superintendent of Public Works, had a discussion with the board on the energy efficiency program, suggested rescheduling the discussion, and that will be rescheduled to the next workshop. He said he would like to wait on this issue because he will have more information available at a later date. Jake also discussed the Marathon Engineering proposal to provide services for the Main Street culvert replacement and channel restoration. He said he would like to have the firm do calculations for the design, do a topographical survey, which would cost approximately $5,500. The issue was rescheduled for the board meeting on July 9th. I believe that should be July 23rd. Should be tonight.
Ninth? We moved it 2 days.
Oh, we did talk about it. And then we moved to an executive session and discussing potential disciplinary action regarding an employee, and also to discuss potential promotion, demotion of a particular employee. And we came out of executive session at 10:17, and we adjourned the meeting at 10:18.
Thank you.
Thanks, Darrell. Any questions?
Oh, no.
All right. I'll entertain a motion in a second to accept the workshop meeting.
I'll
make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Polito?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Byers?
Aye.
Mayor Cahill?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next, we have the village board meeting minutes of July 9th. Does anyone have any questions?
No, I do not.
All right. Darrell? I'll entertain a motion in a second to accept the meeting minutes of July 9th.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Byers?
Aye.
Trustee Ippolito?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Abstain.
Trustee Lancy?
Abstain.
Mayor Cahill?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have a resolution to approve the claims and warrants.
I reviewed them this evening. Did not have any questions.
Just had one on page number 1 for Forge Electric for $1,500.
Oh,
Does he come up every time an alarm goes off? This is Mr. Fritz, correct?
Yes, this was a high influence channel alarm. That was the probe, I think. I think the bill for the probe was on the last bill pay. I signed off on it not that long ago. That's where they had the, it was giving them bad signals. They had to shut the alarm off, and they had to go up to the plant a few times to make sure that, we just keep monitoring the plant because the influent alarm was not working properly. Ended up having to get that shut off and then ultimately replaced.
Is that fairly extensive? I saw it took 2.5 days of work for him to do that. Like 19 hours of work, 8, 7, and 4. I noticed that there were 480 feet of wire, but
Yeah, 426 feet of wire,
something like that.
fish tape. Yeah, it looks like they had to pull new wire. When they had to pull new wire through a conduit there, that's what they had to have the wire lubricant for, and they just got measuring tape, but simply called the fish tape and connectors, so it was pretty labor intensive.
Anybody else have any questions?
Jake, one more. How about that Polydyne for 1872?
It's the Polymer, it's Polydyne Corporation. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
What page are we on? What page are you on?
3?
Yeah, it's for polymer. This polymer is what we use into the supernate that we pull out of the digesters and we spin, into the digested sludge that we pull out and spin through the centrifuge, and it helps break or separate the water out easier. So that goes in there. It's an ongoing cost that we budget for every year.
Okay.
Anybody else? Questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion in a second to pay the bills.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Byers?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Alito?
Aye.
Mayor Cahill?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have a scheduled public hearing on a proposed local law amended to the Webster Code 156-15 regarding overnight parking on village streets, November 1st and April 1st between the hours of 2 and 6. Currently, there is no parking overnight allowed at all. So this proposed change in the public hearing is to allow overnight street parking during the summer months. I'll go through, I'll just read this. Notice is hereby given that there has been duly introduced at a meeting on the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Webster held on June 25th, a proposed local law number 2, titled Amendment to Village Webster Code 156-15A regarding overnight parking on village streets. Notice is further given that the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Webster will conduct a public hearing on the aforesaid proposed local law in the community room on July 23rd. The proposed law seeks to amend the Village Code 156-15A to provide that parking of any vehicle in the village streets of the Village of Webster between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. is hereby declared unlawful between November 1st and April 1st. Parking between the hours of 2 a.m. is presently unlawful year-round. Please take further notice that all interested persons will be given an opportunity to be heard on the said proposed local law at the place and time aforesaid. Copies of the local law described above are on file in the office of village clerk of Village of Webster, where the same are available for public inspection during regular hours. So if anyone would like to be heard,
Are we still giving names and addresses?
Yes, sir.
Just subject, okay. Bob Steinworth, 25 Dunning Avenue, the Village. Can you answer me a question? Why are we even considering this? Has there been a huge outpouring from the public saying we need parking on the streets overnight? Have there been a lot of people in doing that?
no, there hasn't been a huge outcry.
Has there been anybody?
There's been a few people that have complained that they were given tickets when they were parked overnight, but it's, no. Has there been a flood?
They're going to
No,
complain because
there
they
has
got
not.
tickets.
No.
Okay, so I don't even know why we're discussing this, but here's my side of it.
Sure.
The streets, I don't know if you were up on the streets during the Fireman's Parade.
I saw it.
With parking on both sides, you can barely get a car between them, much less a fire truck. Fire truck ain't gonna happen. You're gonna delay fire, maybe ambulance response to calls during the night. This is ludicrous to even consider this. I can't believe I have to come here and tell you this because it's common sense. Again, I don't know who's complaining, so I don't understand why you're even initiating a law. If nobody's complaining about the law that's in place, which seems to be working for a number of years, with the safety of the public in mind, I think you're crazy to even consider passing this resolution.
Hi, Patty Cataldi, 33 Dunning. I was going to ask the same question as Bob as to why we're even considering this. I have lived in this home for 34, 35 years. And obviously, if someone gets a parking ticket, they're not going to be happy. When I sat on the board, we considered having alternate side parking. Nobody wanted all the signs that would be associated with that because you have to post it every so many feet. If we allowed parking overnight, where is the limit on that parking? I guess a car could be parked there for 3 weeks, and there would be nothing to stop the person from having to move it, or to force them to move it. I have to agree that as a resident in the older section of the village, I think it's ridiculous that we're even considering this. It is something that has worked for years, and to change it, I feel would be a big mistake. I think it would harm the environment in the village. We all have driveways that are plenty long enough. If we have a party, if we have guests, if they're there beyond 2 a.m., they know that they need to move the car. And I think it's silly that we're even discussing it.
Richard Walder, 20 Elm Street. I agree with the last speaker. I had a note here on this, that the overnight parking could be extended forever. Also, I could pull my car out there and leave it for the summer. In the parking lots, many of the village parking lots, we set a 72-hour max for anybody to park there. On the street, now, we have no max. You just leave it there for the summer under this new rule. I wanted to note that this cars in the street add hazards, even parked in the street, add hazard to the kids that cross the street. This last year, we added a crosswalk to where there was only a curb cut to Dunning Avenue to try to make it safer for the kids in the neighborhood. The state is adding several curb cuts on Main Street to make it easier to cross the street and to get around cars. We're putting more onto the street. I feel that we should not do this for public safety reasons. Our kids, and especially in the older part of town where there are times do play in the street, are going to be put at hazard by the more cars that cut in and out of and around. Thank you.
Hi, Lynn Barton, 50 Elm Street. I'm opposed to such a change in the law. We had this discussion last year, maybe.
Right.
I like the idea that the police do come through the village in the middle of the night and hand out tickets. I know they're out there. They can maybe catch somebody doing something. If there are no restrictions on parking, we may not see them as often. And I like the idea of our officers cruising the streets looking for offenders. I have no problem with that. If people have large parties or, or have weekend guests, you can always bring them down to a village parking lot or park in a neighbor's driveway. You can figure it out. You don't have to park in the road. I don't like the idea. I think some streets are narrow. Ours is rather narrow. People aren't the brightest when it comes to parking their cars. Now, what if someone parks it and they're out of town for 3 weeks and somebody else parks right opposite? There are people out there that don't always use their brains. And I don't like trying to drive between cars. I don't like swerving in between cars. And it can be a hazard with kids and things, and I'm opposed to a change, and I hope you don't do that.
Well, I know especially on Dunning Avenue, my son and I walked to the carnival, I think it was probably Friday night, and there were cars on both sides of the street, and there was someone coming off Elm and turning north, and it was a nightmare. So I believe someone said last year at this time that a fire truck could fit between two cars that were parked, and that's absolutely...
If they're parked legally.
If they're parked right across from one another, it wouldn't happen.
From each other, but they're close to the curb. If they're...
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, from what I saw, an SUV barely made it between these two cars, so there's no way a fire truck was gonna make it through there. Point being that I understand that, especially in the older section of the village where the curbs are there, it would be a problem. I don't think, quite frankly, that we would see a flood of people parking their cars on the street. I don't. But is there a potential issue for that? Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's kind of frustrating is, I think we've been echoing that all along. Like, I also agree that we shouldn't even be at this point. I think sometimes a few on this board, want to make decisions based on a few complaints or personal experiences or what other villages and towns do, and we don't always have to do that.
I thought it was a dead issue last year. Someone wanted it brought up to be discussed again, and I think that rightfully so, we should be able to do that.
Yeah, but
so,
I mean,
would anybody else like to speak? I don't mean to.
Can I?
We're still open for the public portion.
Are these doors supposed to be unlocked?
Yes, they are.
Because they weren't, and a couple of us had to walk around. Just to let you know.
The guy in the green, that's his job.
Yeah.
I'm in charge of the air conditioning.
And it's working now. Just kicked on.
Peter Elder, 59 Dunning Avenue. I had this big long thing here. I'm not even going to go through it because everyone has done such a great job. But the question we keep hearing is, why are we here? So why are we here? I think that's the question, Mr. Mayor. We're here because you read a letter from a village resident who no longer even lives in the village, who contributed over $1,000 to your party's campaigns for your candidates.
Actually, you're wrong on two cases.
Okay, and the problem is, you said to Eric Reynolds, these strings don't exist. Those strings do exist.
Make a factual statement, Mr. Elder.
I did.
I realize that you're a politically motivated person,
unfortunately,
sir, but what you're saying right now is factually untrue.
All right, well, I'd like to do that. I will post that on a website, announce that address, and let everyone else make that decision.
Fine.
But Eric Reynolds gave you the financial filings to prove it.
Right. I know.
And here's the thing. In New York State, you shouldn't even be in a position where anybody's even saying this. You shouldn't even be in a position where I could suspect that that would be true. Okay? So my suggestion is, next time, don't make the connection so obvious. Okay?
Well, quite frankly, Mr. Elder, just so you know, all right, we brought this up last year.
That's why we're here.
No, we're not. I did not bring this up at this point this year. Okay? I was asked to put it on the agenda for discussion of the board, and I did.
That is incorrect, Mr. Elder. I am the one who suggested the change between April 1st and November 1st. As I have been driving around through Monroe County, I have seen no other municipality, town, villages that don't permit overnight parking in the summer. So I brought it up because police are inconsistent. Police should not only drive through the village because we have an overnight parking rule. They should drive through our village because we are part of Webster. However, they do come because of overnight parking, as you pointed it out. That's why they come. And I think that that's really wrong. Well, one of the reasons. Right. So if there was overnight parking, they still would come through. However, there also are no kids playing. But Mr. Albert and Mr. Reynolds, he left. Oh, he's here. I'm the one who made the suggestion, not the mayor. And I'm the one who wrote this and presented it to the board. Okay?
You're the fall guy.
I am the fall guy. No, I am
It's the facts, Peter.
Who wrote it.
And just for the record, the majority of the board has not supported this.
Correct.
Mr. Reynolds.
Eric Reynolds, 64 Kircher Park. I felt compelled to come up. I wasn't going to say anything because our residents have done a wonderful job. But the fact is that Harold Krieger and Nancy Theis, his partner, did contribute over $1,000 to your campaign. That being said, Mr. Byers, you are also part of that party, and there's no reason that you couldn't have brought that up for Harold Krieger as well. That's all I have to say. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
I'm still Richard Walter, and I'm still at 20 Elm Street. My only question or comment
I thought you moved from the last time you were
Mr.
up here.
Byers is, if Peter Elder jumped off the bridge with you seem to say that we should not have this, we should change our parking regulation because other villages have it different. Gee, why should we not, you jump off the bridge if John Cahill did?
I'm not jumping off any bridge.
Well, that's a shame. But anyway, why do we have to follow everybody else? Maybe we're the first and we're the best, and they should follow us.
Nancy Papapanu, 20 Dunning Avenue.
How are you?
Hi. I can only echo what my neighbors are saying. I think it's a major safety issue, and it's been working well for all these years, and I think we ought to just can the thought.
Thank you, ma'am.
Wayne Conklin, 36 Catherine Court. I must be one of the streets that the police are not going down. We have people that park on our street overnight. I'm not worried about getting your driveway done, or you might have been some construction at your house and you need to park in the street. I'm just saying regular people park on our street. We live on a cul-de-sac, so they must be missing our street. But I go along that we should not have overnight parking in the village of Webster. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else this evening? All right, well, I'm going to close the public portion of the public hearing at this time. It is 8:09. I don't think we really need to put this up for a vote, do you?
Molly should.
Okay, we're done. All right, number 4, we're going to move that to the next workshop. Unless, did you want to put it up for a vote?
I think we should.
Okay.
We've argued this for a while now.
That's fine.
We should vote on it.
I'll entertain a motion in a second, but, Don? Were you going to say something?
I never prepared any resolution.
All right, we'll put it on for the next board meeting then, okay?
Actually, it's subject to seeker too. You got to do the whole seeker process for this local law.
Somebody make a motion to table it forever.
I can't table it if it's not even scheduled, so we just,
So do we have the option of just taking this off the books because it was a bad idea in the first place?
Well, you had a public hearing, but there never was you never put on the agenda any resolution to adopt it or anything.
Right.
You know,
So we're done.
You could have a public hearing and just,
we don't need to go any, and we don't need to do anything, right?
yeah.
Okay.
I would, before we leave the issue, however, encourage the Webster Police Department to, in fact, be consistent in this law and ticket those cars that are parked. There is a Safe Light van that is down at the end of the street that my daughter at 5:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning consistently sees on the street. Shouldn't be there until after 6 o'clock. So there are a number of inconsistencies, and I would ask that there be consistent.
And they can't be everywhere all the time.
Police department, not a hearing.
Yeah, you
True.
can't.
I'm
There.
just saying, be consistent.
If there's something that repeatedly shows up,
Matters to take care of, they're more important than parking.
Mr. Reynolds, let's just keep the discussion.
something,
here, okay?
yeah, something repeatedly comes up in your neighborhood, then call the police. Let's not point out the police not being consistent, because I don't think that's the case.
Well,
Make the phone call.
I know that this has been my experience. I've had a number of people, actually just particularly one person who lives in Phillips Village who has had a consistent problem with tractor trailers parking on Krieger Road. And every time I've gotten a phone call, I in turn have called the Webster Police Department and received a call back from the chief, and it was immediately addressed the next day. Obviously, I don't drive all throughout the village and see these things, so your point, the gentleman in the back room's point, if it is something that is consistent, they have a limited amount of manpower, obviously. I've seen them in the village, and quite frankly, I saw them patrolling the village at probably 11:30 last week, and when I see them patrolling the village, it makes me feel good. But the point is, if you're having an issue with parking at night, make a phone call, they'll take care of it. I've always had very positive results when I've addressed something.
And another thing I just want to add is, the police department's actually very good, and if you communicate with them, if you paving your driveway, you're sealing, or you're having family up and there's nowhere for them to go and your driveway's packed and they're sleeping the night, just let them know. They'll work with you.
It's why we live in a village, so we can do these things.
I know.
All right, next on the agenda is the authorization for Mayor Cahill to sign the Monroe County Community Development Block Grant for the Main Street culvert replacement, and this is phase 1. Jake, would you mind just running through this real quick? Yourself or Will? Did you
Point of service.
I already said that.
This is the culvert on West Main Street that's needed repair. We've got community development block grant funding for it in 2 phases. This is phase 1. This, I think it was 27.8, and phase 2 is 32,000. That coupled with the money that we put away last year and is allocated in this year's budget allows us to be able to do the project now. I would expect another week or so the contract for phase 2 to come out as well, because obviously it's something we're going to do all at once.
Right.
This came across in 2 different years, so this is a contract, so we can start and have the agreement with the county to be able to start working on getting that accomplished, hopefully this year.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Is it going to be done before the road is paved down that way?
What's that?
Is it going to be done before the road is paved?
No, it's not under the road.
Oh, it's not under the road?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No, we thought about that.
Okay.
All right, any questions?
There's no signature page on here.
I had 3 contracts he has to sign, they have to be original signatures.
Okay.
I think she didn't put them in there because it's just too many pages. I think there was like 28 pages. Was that what it was, Josette?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I'll have
I'm
it
trying
in
to
your-
save paper, Chair.
All right.
I'll have it in your mailbox.
Saving paper. All right, so entertain a motion in a second to allow to authorize the mayor to sign the Monroe County Community Development Block Grant.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Ippolito?
Aye.
Trustee Byers?
Aye.
Mayor Cahill?
Aye.
Motion passes.
So I don't know if I was clear earlier on number 4, but I just want to clarify that we'd like to move that to the workshop, the next workshop, which was
August 4th.
August 4th, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, next is the authorization for Mayor Kale to sign a lease and maintenance agreement with Lineage for the postage meter. So essentially, we'll be paying for it'll be the same amount as the old postage meter, and we will be getting a new machine also. 60 months. Any questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion second to authorize the mayor to sign the lease and maintenance agreement.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Byers?
Aye.
Trustee Ippolito?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Mayor Cahill?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Don, you have anything for us this evening?
No, I do not.
Thank you. Josette?
The financial statements for June 2015, did anybody have any questions? Did everybody look at it?
I didn't see this revenue statement in here, that's the only thing that I was going to ask. We have the expenditures, but I didn't see the revenues.
It didn't get attached.
Pardon?
I did not, I made a mistake, and I didn't attach it. It was in the packet.
Could you scan that tomorrow and just email it to me, please?
Yes, I will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
No.
We'll need to put this on the next agenda, because I have to have a motion a second to accept the statements, and we're missing the revenue aspect, so
Okay.
if you could add that to the August 4th meeting, I'd appreciate it.
August 13th.
Well, no, but yeah, correct, thank you.
Yes,
My
you're welcome.
August 13th. Well,
Yes, sir.
how are you?
I'm good. I'm looking at myself on the TV. I'm not liking what I'm seeing here.
He opened that door, didn't he? He opened that door wide open.
Ever since I achieved low self-esteem, life's been so much easier. So you have the building report for the month of June, month of June before you. Does anybody have any questions? Anything really exciting to talk about, or just the usual run-of-the-mill?
No, I have a question.
Sure.
So, and I know I keep going over this month after month. 104 East Main, so we're returning to court on September 15th.
Correct.
All right, and will the owner be there also?
Yes, he's there every time we come.
Okay. So what are you gonna, what do you think the disposition will be at that court date?
Well,
He clearly hasn't brought that up to code, correct?
well, I don't know. What we asked him to do is to maintain at least the outside of the property, mowing it, and at least so it looks halfway decent. Has he touched the building itself? No. He's in the enviable position, as I've said before, of a rock and a hard place with the bank, because the bank doesn't want to talk to him, doesn't want to negotiate with him. He's had several offers of people to buy the building, and they called bank doesn't want to deal with anybody, apparently. That's what we've heard. So we're hoping that on September 15th, we have something that says, well, someone's made a deal with the bank, they're going to buy it, or whatnot, but that's as far as I can go.
Well, my concern is, because one day I did walk around there, and from a structural standpoint, the foundation is not looking very good. So I would think, and I could be wrong, that if it's not structurally sound, is in imminent danger of collapsing, from a code perspective, we could address that regardless of who owns the house or what stage of foreclosure it is or is not in. Because we would be put in a libelous position, I would presume.
No, we wouldn't.
Okay, if we don't address that, but we do have the ability to address that foundation.
Correct. We can address the building. We actually passed a code that gives us a little more teeth to do that. I was reviewing the code, and I was reminded of that recently and going back over the code. So I have to have permission to enter the property to go around and look at all the foundation and everything so I can make a good evaluation of it, or actually have permission to enter the building to look at it from an even finer standpoint. I can look at it from the road, I can look at it from other people's property that give me permission to look at it from their property, but I cannot enter the property without the permission of the owner.
Who owns the adjacent property?
Well, you have Sun Automotive on one side, I don't know on the other, and I think, who's behind it? 82 East Main. Yeah, 82 East Main Street.
I think Sun would be more than happy to give us permission. I don't know the other side. And how far back is the next?
Goes back to Saloon.
Got to be at least 60, 70 feet, something like that.
If you had an opportunity to take a look at that foundation, you really should, because it's not good. Unless you borrow my binoculars. I just wanted to ask that question because if you do have an opportunity and the ability to address that from a code standpoint, violation standpoint, I appreciate it.
So it'd be trespassing if you walk around.
So 65 Sherwood, Doris Brown?
Yes.
No updates on it?
Nothing yet, no.
Is she still living in the village?
I have no idea where she is.
Is the house vacant, you think?
Yes, it is vacant. You can't, no one can live in it. That's why I'm working on it.
I don't know how, I didn't know how extensive the fire damage was.
Probably burned down.
Anybody else have any questions? Nope. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You don't look that bad.
It's a nice shirt.
Nice haircut.
Nice beard.
Jake, how are we tonight?
Lovely. Obviously this is another, we have two seasons, basically winter and construction, and they're both pretty busy.
Yes, they are.
This year, I do want to talk just real briefly about the state and the contract and the work that's going on, excuse me, on Main Street and North and South Ave. I thank them once again. They've been, I think, very accommodating to the village and to the residents and the businesses as this work progresses through the village. I was real apprehensive when it started. You hear the state's coming in and doing something, but they continue to work with us, work with the businesses, different events. When they had the carnival, they tried buttoning everything up and keeping it as safe as they could and as tight as they could, and then left town for a couple days to let parade and all the events that were going on here, and then got right back in on Monday. So they're real great to work with. That being said, I do have updates that we put on a website to share with the businesses and the fire department and that, and we put up on the website. Next week, they're going to continue working on South Ave out here on the curbing on the east side of the road. They're passing out notices to the residents that there will be, when they put curb past the driveways, that will have no access to their driveways for 3 days or so, 3 or 4 days. Obviously, there's municipal lots here that people can park in. It's a minor inconvenience, but they ask that if there's special considerations, they can make arrangements. But they're handing out information and notices to everybody along the street that's affected by it. also next week, early next week, the plan is to begin milling West Main Street and a portion of East Main Street, basically starting from Lapham Park, working up to about Noco, Corning Park, and then all on Tuesday, and then doing the next section up to Daniel Drive, and then final section just past Friendly's there. So it's going to be pretty busy, pretty hectic next week, Tuesday especially, when they're doing the milling. After they're done milling, it's going to be about 3 weeks before they're planning on paving, and at that time they're going to readjust all the elevations on the drainage structures, the manholes, water valves, gas valves, and everything else that's out into the street there. So there's going to be some more work going on there. But the big disruptive day is going to be Tuesday, weather permitting and equipment permitting and everything else, but that's the plan right now. So stay off West Main Street on Tuesday, I guess, is a short thing for that. We're working with them, obviously, and I'm working with them. Our crews are out doing the regular village work, and one of the things this week, they're doing gutters on Fuller Avenue between Dunning Avenue and London, kind of doing that in preparation for paving eventually on Curtis Park, not this year, but Curtis Park, that other section of Fuller, we're going to continue it down. We've likewise noticed, or gave notice to the residents who are going to be disrupted. Luckily, that section only has about 4 driveways on it, so we're real fortunate there. That work's going to continue. We're going to pave or pour gutters there next week, and then pull the other side and pour the other side the following week. And we're going to be paving that section of Fuller, Harmon Street, and Barrett Drive. But Barrett Drive, obviously, we're waiting until the state's done with their work to be able to get that section of Barrett Drive in there done. So that's what we've got, and also new playground equipment should be here in a couple weeks. Should be getting here. It's not going to be installed, but that's when it should be getting here, and obviously there's weather dependent as well. Our parks, I always tell people we got all our parks because it was too wet to build on. So they were nice enough to donate it to us, but it makes it a challenge when we want to get in there and do anything. But that should be coming before the end of the year here. I'm going to try to get some signs made up in there. I want to leave the equipment that's there as long as possible, but then once we have to get it out, I plan maybe the week of August 3rd, popping that stuff out in preparation for the other company coming in and installing the new stuff.
Al wants to know if you're going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony.
No, but I get the first slide down the new slide. I'm going to be
You're going to have to beat Jerry up to the top of that, though, I'll tell you that right
I got to test it out.
So I got an email today, and because obviously some trees are missing. Okay, that the DOT took down for construction reasons, and then one came down apparently because it was dead, and the question was, will we be replacing those trees? And my answer was yes, we will be, because I know we put money aside for trees. But I just wanted to, if you just wanted to talk about that very briefly.
Yeah, I've Matt Chatfield, who I get the pleasure of working with now and then, has called me the Lorax recently because we're cutting trees down. But they're all necessary ones. I'm not I like trees. I'm not a big fan of cutting them down, but sometimes it is necessary. Sometimes they're dead, and they should have been down a while ago. But we did take, and it all seemed to be in one location around the 4 corners, South Ave and that little section of West Main. We did take trees down there. We aren't going to put them back. One of the things we decided to do, working with the state too, is to close up some of the tree boxes that were out there. They became a deposit for cigarette butts, trash. Weren't looking great, and it did make sometimes maintenance a little difficult. We had a discussion, especially with the project going on North Avenue, of trying to integrate some of the things that we're going to do down there eventually, and some of the designs or some of the features or elements of that, bring it up into South Avenue, in the 4 corner area. So where the tree boxes, or excuse me, where the tree boxes or the ground planters were, we're looking at getting elevated planters that we can set there with a loader in the springtime, have them there, but then when it comes time for snow removal, the boxes are gone. Snow removal's easy, and something they're not going to get loaded with salt. They're not going to have, weak-looking, over-salted flowers trying to grow in them, and things like that. And frankly, I'd almost like to see if we can have something that's consistent and it'll work and with trees in the same type of situation for areas like that, where a smaller tree for sight distances and things. Back where we have the planter back a little bit away from the corner, I think we want to put a tree back in there.
Right.
Over in this area here where we got a tree planter, we're still going to try to keep a tree box or planter in that area. But where we have the opportunities where it's close to the corners and stuff, it'd be nice to try to have, you know, maybe some of the rectangular, by vision rectangular boxes for the flowers that are up, and then maybe some, if we try a couple of the trees, worst case scenario, we can take them out of the planter and plant the trees. But I think it would be a need and give us some options, but and tie in also everything that's going to happen, bring it up this way.
Brockport had they had a nice display on their Main Street. I know I took a few pictures way back when. You get the flowers up off the, you know, and then you can put them away for the winter.
Yeah, it's nice too. Once we put them out there, we can put flowers out, hopefully that are a little more mature once we start the flowers. We might be able to even, like I said, start them right in there. I don't know, we'll have to work that out. It'd be something that would be new for us, but it'd be nice if you put them out there and they look nice immediately rather than having to wait for them to grow. So, it'd be neat. I'm looking forward to getting something there. And I think we're going to try to get some ideas on the designs and get something there sooner rather than later, because we certainly don't want to turn that nice, beautiful new sidewalk into a parking area.
Exactly.
We got a couple calls and complaints today, which were addressed. We called the police right away, and they were gone real quick. So
Vehicles or motorcycles?
Motorcycles, which are technically a vehicle, but we got a couple calls, and I know in the office they called up and it was addressed. I didn't see them shortly after that. They were moved. So
great, thank you.
Yeah, it'd not be nice to have a whole plan for the trees and the flowers and the waste baskets. So anybody that's out, if you're traveling around in various little villages and towns, take pictures and bring them back. I know I brought some back from Brockport, and they were just, I mean, they just did a beautiful job.
Thanks, Judy. Send them to Jake.
Yes, send them all to Jake.
Can I spell it's J
or me?
JLANCY
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that it? Anybody else have anything this evening?
Yeah, I want to thank my daughter for dropping me and Al off some nice coffee.
Absolutely, I appreciate
it. Good kid, keep her.
Which daughter?
Both of them.
Both of them. Nice.
Yeah.
They know they're fine.
All right, well, I'm going to open up the phone lines now. The number to call, if you'd like to call in, is 265-3772. Please give your name and address. And if I do not hear the name and address, I will be hanging up on you. Announcements, Mr. Trustee Byers?
Saturday, 8:30 to 1. The Joe Obie Market is having Christmas in July, and they'll be having Christmas cookies, cake, and a number of other things. We'll wait.
Good evening. Can I have your name and address, please?
Roger Smith, 800 Holt Road.
Mr. Smith, how are you?
I'm good. I've got a question on the Artsy Crafty show at North Ponds Park this weekend.
Yes, sir.
What kind of provisions are being made so that parking in, like I live in a apartment complex, that people aren't going to be parking in our areas?
I really can't answer that question because that function is happening in the town of Webster, but I'm sure if you would call the supervisor tomorrow, Mr. Nesbitt, he would be more than happy to provide that information to you.
Okay, so your village not counts?
That's correct, sir. They are running shuttles, I know that, but I don't have the specifics on the shuttles, the times, but Mr. Nesbitt will most certainly have that information for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And of course, as just mentioned, on Saturday and Sunday, there is the Waterfront Art Show at at North Ponds. Also, we have our Jazz Festival. It will be starting at 4:30 on Saturday. A number of different groups will be playing. You can go to the bid website and you can find out who they are.
Good evening. Can I have your name and address, please?
Yes, Lori Reynolds, 138 Judson Street.
How are you?
Okay, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
I have concerns again about the well fields. What I have to say, I've written it out to make it a little easier. I feel that the value of the well fields are worth much more leaving them the way they are now as green space. The fields can be put to much better use than selling to a developer to put in 100 homes or more. Why not sell the water to a water battling distributor, keeping the land the way it is? Then the village would have a lucrative income ongoing. It would be a very bad decision to sell just to balance the budget for 1 or 2 years. Mr. Mayor, if you were to sell this land to a developer, what would you sell next time to make balancing the budget? That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the last thing I guess I would bring up is Tuesday, the 28th, Movies in the Park will be The Wizard of Oz. Always a favorite.
Also,
on the 28th?
No.
This weekend's a jazz festival.
This weekend is the Jazz Festival.
Right.
Correct. Begins at 4:30 Saturday.
Wasn't me.
Music in the gazebo.
I think there is something going on tomorrow night, too.
There's a concert
In the
tomorrow.
park, Friday night? Let's check
Yes.
it out.
Yeah.
Just as a reminder, on Thursday evenings at 7 o'clock, the village band plays in the Shell on Phillips Road also,
No.
which is south of Bridge.
24th, yes. Amanda Ashley?
Amanda Ashley.
Amanda Ashley, tomorrow night in the park. So it is a full weekend.
Anyone have any additional items they'd like to speak about this evening? All right, I'll entertain a motion in a second to close the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second it.
Trustee Abolito?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Byers?
Aye.
Mayor Cahill?
Aye.
Motion passes.